afternoon from Flemington and welcome to ABC Radio's coverage of the 1993 Melbourne Cup. We welcome listeners across Australia, including the regional network, which is receiving this broadcast through HMAS Melbourne, docked in Melbourne for the Spring Racing Carnival. Welcome too to Radio Australia listeners around the world, including the Pacific, South and Southeast Asia and early risers in Europe, and to those tuned in to our new overseas network in Japan. And a special hello to the crew aboard HMAS Sydney, who are performing a peacekeeping role in the Red Sea. Weather conditions overcast at Flemington, and the forecast is for more showers and a chance of hail later on as we cross to Peter Booth in the mounting yard.
Thank you, Elaine Canty. And conditions dry underfoot in the mounting yard, but the track at Flemington is slow. It was upgraded from heavy after 2 inches of overnight rain, and consequently it's thrown the cup wide open as far as the betting is concerned. Poetic King did record 57.6 for the 1,000 metres in race 3, but reports from around the traps here is that the riverside of Flemington is fairly heavy. The horses are parading in the mounting yard. It's just another day at the office for them, but not for the nervous owners and trainers. Let's get the latest on the cup betting as we say good afternoon to Greg Miles.
Good afternoon, Peter, and good afternoon, everyone. The most interesting feature of the betting has been the move for the top weight drum taps in the ring here today. The overnight rain has favoured him, and he is going to run an equal favourite in the Melbourne Cup with our Pompey, the George Hanlon prepared stayer, who has had a thorough grounding and a wonderful preparation for the Melbourne Cup this year. But Drum Taps is clearly the best backed in the race. He'll run equal favourite with our Pompey. They're each at around about 5-1, and that's in contrast to the betting overnight. Drum Taps would have been a 14-1 chance on dry ground. The other good chances, the Phantom is slipping in favouritism with this wet ground. He hasn't really experienced it before. Sub-Zero, despite earlier reports that he was being heavily supported, has been easy when it's come down to the serious part of betting, and he's out to about 14-1. Air Seattle, despite missing a run last Saturday, is firm in the market. The Caulfield Cup runner-up is a 10-1 chance. Tennessee Jack, there was a great report that he would be supported here today, but he too has eased from around about 10s out to 14-1. So the favourites equal Drum Taps and our Pompey. Great Vintage, which would have been in the market on a dry track, is going to be a 25-1 chance in the race. That's the latest on the betting. The jockeys are mounting up until they come out. Peter Booth.
OK, Greg, it won't be long before we hear the fanfare. My teeth are chattering down here. Derby Day was sensational. It's raining just slightly, but it's about 14 degrees and pretty cool here at Flemington. Greg will introduce the horses to the crowd in just a moment as they make their way to the barrier. The Cup this year is worth $2,035,000, with the winner receiving $1.3 million and a gold cup valued at $32,500. Now, if trainer Bart Cummings can win his 10th Cup with either Tennessee Jack, Great Vintage, Altruist Delight or Frontier Boy, the BRC will present him with a gold cup valued at $10,000 as a memento of the occasion. Now, Brendan Cormick, the racing rider for the Australian, is with me. Brendan, there was some talk that the race meeting could have been called off this morning.
Well, there was a suggestion, Peter, that that was the case because of at a time of about 7:30 this morning, there was an inspection made by Pat Lawler with Rodney Johnson and the track manager, Mr. Ron King, and they looked at the track and they really felt that if there was a lot more rain to come in the early morning period, it could have been very bad for the Cup.
Well, the straight and the 1,000 metres have been terrific with the time so far, but I think you told me earlier that around the back on the riverside it's quite heavy.
Yes, and you've always got to look for good times in the straight races because it's a very well-drained surface area there, and down the back with flooding in the Maribyrnong, I don't think that's really helped the situation down the back, but certainly the ground staff have done a wonderful job to be able to present the course as well as they have given the circumstances overnight.
Greg just reported, you may not have heard, that Drum Taps is equal favourite without Pompey. He's into 5-1 with the bookmakers, and you said to me a moment ago he looks very fit indeed, the top weight.
He most certainly does, and don't be dismayed if you fancy Vintage Crop either. He looks quite well, and don't be at all surprised to see him run a very big race also. It could be the two imports right to the fore.
And what were your 1, 2 and 3 in the Australian this morning, Brendan?
Yes, the top pick there was Drum Taps. The Phantom was second pick and Air Seattle for third.
What about Castletown in the wet now? And Sub-Zero, Greg said that Sub-Zero's eased a little.
Yes, well, Castletown will appreciate the soft going. He ran third in the race last year here. Another horse I thought that would go well in softish ground is Azam.
And what about Bart? Can he get his 10th cup with the 4 he's got in?
It'd be a wonderful thing. It'd be a great thing for the press, but I think there are a number of great stories that will come out of this cup. It doesn't really matter which one wins. There'll be a good story there at the end of the day, and that'll suit us all.
Castletown has just gone past. He should know this track pretty well. Sub-Zero with Greg Hall has just gone past, and we're waiting on our Pompeii. He'll be going past in just a moment. There's Jim Cassidy's mount. Where's our Pompeii? Going past us now with Mick Dittman up in the saddle. Brendan?
Peter, I think an important thing to note out of the mounting yard is that with the 2 imported horses, the occasion doesn't seem to have got the better of them. They seem quite composed, and they're walking around here quite peacefully in the mounting yard, not overawed by the situation as they start to move out.
OK, there's the fanfare. Let's go back to Greg Miles.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Victoria Racing Club presents the running of the Foster's Melbourne Cup. The field of 24 is led out by the English champion stayer Drum Taps, Frankie Dettori. Number 2, last year's winner, Sub-Zero, Greg Hall. 3, Castletown. Lining up for his 3rd run in the Melbourne Cup, Noel Harris. Number 4 is Fra, the Caulfield Cup winner, Darren Gauci. 5, Tiaka Nick, winner of a Metropolitan Anderson Ledger, Bob Vance. Number 6, Vintage Crop. From Ireland, the Irish St Ledger winner, Michael Kinane. Azam, winner of the Sydney Cup, Larry Cassidy. Number 8, the Phantom, having his 3rd run of the Melbourne Cup. Winner of the McKinnon Stakes on Saturday, Jim Cassidy. 9, Our Pompeii, the Adelaide Cup winner, Mick Dittman. Number 10 is Mercator, a New Zealand Cup winner, Chris Johnson. 11, Air Seattle, runner-up in the Caulfield Cup, a Queensland Derby winner, Shane Dye. 12, Silk Alley, the Coonji Handicap winner, Grant Cooksley. 13, Cavalieri, who ran 5th in the event last year, Kevin Moses. Number 14, Field Officer, the Perth Cup winner, Troy Jackman. 15 is Tennessee Jack, winner of the Dalgety here on Saturday, Damien Oliver. 16, Frontier Boy, one of 4 trained by Bart Cummings in the race, going for his 10th win today, Darren Beedman. 17, Ultimate Aim, winner of the Geelong Cup, placed in an Auckland Cup, Paddy Payne. 18, Dancing Lord, the Wellington Cup winner, Harry White, looking for his 5th win in the race. 19, Slight Chance, 6 times the winner at Group 1 level, John Marshall. Number 20, Young Pirate, who won the Duke of Norfolk here in March, Alf Matthews. Number 21 is Maracas, runner-up in the Dalgety, Michael Clark. 22, Our Tristolite, winner of the Australasian and South Australian Oaks, Greg Childs. Number 23, Great Vintage, the Quick Ease winner, Stephen King. And 24, Diamond Bases, the Launceston Cup winner, with Brendan Clements on board. The field of 24 on their way to the barrier stalls for the running of the 1993 Melbourne Cup. A wonderful field, a great field. Light rain just starting to fall again here at Flemington as they do their preliminaries. Let's have a look at the betting, and Our Pompeii now the favourite. Drum Taps at 11-2 behind Our Pompeii at 5. 8-1 for the Phantom. They're the top 3. And a little money for Vintage Crop. So the English and Irish gallopers haven't been forgotten by any stretch of the imagination. Conditions made to order for them. The Melbourne Cup field on its way to the barrier stalls. Shortly we'll hear from John Farnham. In the meantime, let's go back to Peter Booth.
Thank you, Greg. And rain falling in the mounting yard. In fact, it's falling very heavily across towards the city. Let's hope it's OK for the next 5 or 6 minutes. With me, the Chief Executive of the VRC. And Rod, earlier in the introduction, I mentioned that there was some thought that the meeting might have been called off this morning. How close was it?
Well, this morning it certainly went through my mind, not from a track point of view, but more the surrounds. The track's in excellent condition considering the rain we've had, but the surrounds were the problem.
How much have people been inconvenienced by the wet weather?
Well, I think they've been inconvenienced, but I think they probably accept that. Melbourne Cup Day is Melbourne Cup Day, and whilst I sympathise with them, they all seem to be having a bit of fun, those that are here.
And what about the introduction of the imported horses? Well, as Greg just said just a moment ago, that Drum Taps was almost the equal favourite, so him coming over anyway has been vindicated at this point of time.
Oh, absolutely. We've been absolutely thrilled with the total promotion of the carnival and also the inclusion of the European horses. And we had everything going for us, but however, you can't. Huey up there wasn't very kind to us.
Whose idea was it to introduce the international flavour?
Well, we've been talking to the overseas people on more than one occasion prior to this year, but it was just this year that with the cooperation, I suppose, of the quarantine authorities and also the VATC in providing a facility that made it possible.
A day like this, where the crowd is probably down, 15, 20,000 or more, what does it do to the BRC figures and TAB returns?
Well, it'll put a bit of a dent in the budget, but hopefully with Oaks Day and the final day to come, we can still smile at the end of the carnival.
Well, you're the chief executive of the BRC. In the old days, it used to be known as just a plain old secretary, the hard-working secretary. How much hard work goes into it, and when do you start, Rod?
Oh, we start right from the time the Cup's over to assess what took place and also to see how we can improve the situation.
And what's your tip at this late stage?
Oh, I like our Pompeii.
Well, I hope you're right. Good on you, Rod.
Thanks,
Rod
Peter.
Johnson, the chief executive of the BRC. Now, there's a bit of screaming going on down here. It's not because Rod Johnson's done up in the tails. Tremendous applause for Flemington. Let's go back to Greg Miles.
Peter, they're nearly set. Most of the field has been locked away for the Foster's Melbourne Cup. Drum Taps is coming up into the line. We only await 4 or 5 to move in. Sub-Zero coming up into the stalls. Cavalieri over near the outside. Slight chance is the way yet. There's Young Pirate going in next to Sub-Zero. Over on the outside, Cavalieri is ready. Slight chance comes in. Out Tristolite. Can she give Bart his 10th win in the race? But 4 runners. They're all in. Ready for a start in the 1993 Melbourne Cup. They're set. Ready. Light. And they're off. Drum Taps began well to a big roar from the crowd. Cavalieri dropped in behind them with great vintage. Silkali began fast. Vintage Crop was away smartly as just behind them. Drum Taps going forward, so is Maracas and Young Pirate. Just behind them is Frontier Boy as they settle down. Our Pompeii working across the field, so is the Phantom. Fra is the widest runner heading towards the front now. Castletown, Mercator and Diamond Base are settling towards the rear. But they're pretty tightly bunched with the Caulfield Cup winner Fra at the 400 the first time. Working over to the rail in front of Maracas. Running third is the Phantom on the outside. Just behind them is Tiakau Nick going forward, and then Drum Taps and Vintage Crop together. Out Tristolite around them, and they're followed further back. Our Pompeii, Silkali pulling his head off on the inside from Young Pirate. Slight chance. Frontier Boy is next, followed by Field Officer, and then Tennessee Jack. Ultimate Aim is next, followed by Cavalieri. Sub-Zero well back on the inside, and then Air Seattle inclined to reef a little bit at the post the first time. Next, Great Vintage, Dancing Lord, followed Castletown. The Sydney Cup winner Azama's third last. Diamond Bases and Mercator are the last 2. Out of the straight to the riverside now, and Tiakau Nick at work to the lead from Frontier Boy. Fra from near the outside has settled on the rail third. The Phantom is fourth on the outside. One Maracas inclined to pull a bit here. They're followed by Drum Taps, well placed. Out Tristolite caught 3 wide as she was in the Caulfield Cup. 2 lengths to Vintage Crop, Silkali and our Pompeii together. 1 further back in the field came Young Pirate, and then Slight Chance, followed by Tennessee Jack on the rail. Then Frontier Boy, Sub-Zero, Ultimate Aim and Great Vintage. Further back is Cavalieri, Dancing Lord the rail. 1.5 lengths further back Azam, Air Seattle, Mercator. Second last is Castletown, and 2 or 3 lengths last of all is Diamond Bases. They've gone past the halfway mark, less than 1,600 to go in the Melbourne Cup. And Tiakau Nick is the leader from Frontier Boy. Fra is 2 lengths away, having a lovely run. So too the Phantom on his outside. 1.5 lengths Maracas, who's still fighting the rider. Drum Taps travel sweetly next on the outside. They're followed by Silkali. With those is Vintage Crop and Out Tristolite. 1.5 lengths to Tennessee Jack, Our Pompeii, Young Pirate. Further back is Sub-Zero. Last year's winner in about the middle of the field on the rail from Slight Chance. Back behind those horses, then in the field, a length and a half away, is Dancing Lord and Great Vintage, Ultimate Aim. Back behind those field ops are about the middle of the field. Further back in the field then came Cavalieri, Mercator, Azam. Well back, coming up, passing the 800-metre mark now is Air Seattle and Castletown. And last of all is Diamond Bases. Frontier Boy raced up to Tiarkau Nick. They're in search of the home turn, and 2 lengths further back is the Phantom. Further back in the field is Fra, hard ridden. Then Drum Taps under some pressure. Maracas over on the fence when they sweep into the straight now. Tennessee Jack with a run, and now Pompey out wider. Tiarkau Nick turned in front of Frontier Boy. 2 lengths, Maracas third. Then came Fra, the Phantom down the outside, followed by Vintage Crop coming with a run now. And Tennessee Jack on the outside. Tiarkau Nick still in front at the 300. Led Frontier Boy a length and a half further back. Vintage Crop, he's coming home, the Irish galloper. Tiarkau Nick is in front of Frontier Boy. Vintage Crop is a danger, and Great Vintage is late. Tiarkau Nick, but Vintage Crop has got him. Vintage Crop, the Irish horse will win the Melbourne Cup. Vintage Crop, 2 lengths. Tiarkau Nick just held second. Mercator flashed up for third. Fourth, Great Vintage, a gap. Frontier Boy, Tennessee Jack. Then Drum Taps followed further back in the field by Maracas. Next to finish was the Phantom, our Pompey. They were trailed Cavalieri, Sub-Zero, Castletown, Young Pirate. They're followed by Azam, Dancing Lord, Air Seattle, Castletown, Ultimate Aim, Slight Chance. Further back in the field to finish here is Silk Ali, and Diamond Bases is last. The Irish Raider has taken the Melbourne Cup. Number 6. Number 6 is first, Vintage Crop, ridden by Michael Kinane. Number 6, Vintage Crop. M. Kinane has won the Melbourne Cup. It's a photo for the miners. The judges called for a photo. 5 has got second, Tiarkau Nick. Bobby Vance, 10 third. Mercator, the 100-to-1 chance. Ridden by Chris Johnson. Vintage Crop, ridden by Michael Kinane. Trained by Dermot Weld. The Irish galloper Roussillon from Overplay, raced by Dr. M.W.J. Smurfett, has won the Cup. Their first foray, and surely the first of many to come. The Irish horse Vintage Crop has won the Melbourne Cup. 6, 5 and 10. Let's go down to Peter Booth.
The trainer Dermot Weld at press conference stand here.
No, he's a very good horse. Great excitement. You know, I won the Melbourne Cup and I've won races around the world, but this is as good as any of them. And special day. It just shows you don't have to run on a Saturday to win on a Tuesday. That's a load of rubbish.
Surprised about the odds, 16-to-1?
Well, I was a little bit concerned with the rain that came last night, and I was a bit concerned when he lost 7 kilos in the trip. That was my only concern. But as I said to the media, the last 3 days he's come back well. And I was very happy with him on Sunday. But anyway, that's it.
Okay, Dermot Weld, Greg, the trainer of Vintage Crop, and back to you for the moment.
Right, Pete. Vintage Crop, what a double for Michael Kinane. This Irish champion rider who spends half his time in riding in Hong Kong and the other half in Ireland, and despite the fact he's only there 6 months, he's set to win his 9th premiership in Ireland. And earlier this year, he took out the English Derby on Commander-in-Chief. What a double. An English Derby and a Melbourne Cup. Peter.
Yes, Greg, back to Mounting Yard. Rod Johnson, we spoke with him before the race, Chief Executive of VRC. What a dream from a promotional point of view for the Melbourne Cup to have an international horse winning.
Yeah, absolutely sensational. I mean, the overseas countries have been having a look at us, but now they'll be having a real look at us.
Fantastic. What a great result. Greg, back to you.
Yes, there's no doubt about that. For the first time, the race has been taken to the international level, and we really do have something down under now. This will be the premier 2-mile race in the world. A lot of us here thought that already. It is the greatest handicap in the world, and now because of this wonderful victory by this Irish stayer, who incidentally has had 2 starts or 3 starts over the hurdles and won them as well, which is quite an incredible record. Ladies and gentlemen, taking the Foster's Melbourne Cup to a new dimension. Here is the first truly international winner. Please welcome him back to scale. Number 6, Vintage Crop. Bred by VR and Mrs. Firestone by Roussillon from Overplay, by Bastino, raced by Dr. M.W.J. Smurfett. The winner trained at the Curragh by Dermot Weld and was ridden by Ireland's champion rider Michael Kinane, who adds a Melbourne Cup to his English Derby victory earlier this year on Commander-in-Chief. Second placing, number 5, Tiaka Nick. Tiaka Nick by Grosvenor from Antoinette, trained by Gay Waterhouse and ridden by Bobby Vance, the Cox Plate victor. And third, number 10, Mercator by Sea Anchor from Pretty Marinda, trained by R.B. Dowling and ridden by Chris Johnson. It's 6, 5 and 10 official. Fourth in the Melbourne Cup was Great Vintage, and fifth was Frontier Boy, and they've run 3 minutes 23.4. Pete.
OK, Greg, back in the mounting yard, Gay Waterhouse, the trainer of the second horse, and of course her father, Tommy Smith, and he's a very proud father at the moment. And Gay Waterhouse, in fact, 3UZ and ABC Radio might do this interview together. Yes, I think we will. Congratulations.
Well, it's like winning the Melbourne Cup. I mean, I know it sounds
did for
silly.
Australia, didn't you?
Well, we did. We carried the colours for Australia and New Zealand. This is called the quick, slick McGraw preparation. But I knew this horse was right today, and I said to them on Saturday, you've got to run in this race. Even if we run a place, it's like winning a major group race. The horse is really peaked, and he just looks so good today.
How did you feel 300 metres out?
Well, I was having a small heart attack. Everyone around me, poor David Hayes probably won't have any hearing after this race.
Oh, what a tremendous job with the horse, haven't you? It's a credit to you, Gay.
Well,
Congratulations.
he's a great horse, and he's one of my very greatest mates, and he's done me proud as a trainer. Without him, I probably wouldn't be on the map.
And Dad's pretty proud too behind you, I can tell you. OK, Greg, the winner's back in the winner's stall. Back to you.
Yes, and as he came back in, somebody had handed Dermot Weld a small Irish flag, which he proudly displayed as he led this wonderful staying 7-year-old back in. Vintage Crop, as I mentioned earlier, had 2 starts over hurdles and he'd won them both. He'd met Drum Taps 3 times before. He'd beaten him in the Irish St. Leger and met him better at the weights, and yet he went out as the secondary pick of the 2 internationals here today because of the reports that he hadn't done well. And he hadn't. He'd lost 7 kilos on the trip and he was off his speed. But just in the last week, he started to put it all together, and it just proves how good these international horses are. Drum Taps, on the other hand, had a charmed run, an absolutely perfect run, in fact, but he was struggling by the time they came round the home turn. Our Pompey got into the middle of the field. I think he really failed to handle the going here today, and much to the surprise of many, Great Vintage was the one who was coming home hard. Tiaka Nick, being set the task of leading all the way, has done a wonderful job, just a superb job, really, to hold on as well as he did. As Gay mentioned, he had a rushed preparation, and it wasn't really going to be his race at all, but he's done particularly well. Jockeys are weighing in now, soon weight or otherwise. Peter.
Yes, Greg, when Irish Shires are smiling down here in the mounting yard. You mentioned our Pompey, who probably started favourite in the Melbourne Cup, and Jim Rackenbold, who's been very good to us on ABC Radio throughout the carnival, the owner of our Pompey. Jim, what happened, mate?
A bit of a wet patch over the 7 furlong, Nick reckons, and the horse on the outside and took away.